Sixth grade, this is 4.1, video number 2. We'll talk about subtracting mixed numbers. Now, just like adding mixed numbers, whenever you subtract, the denominators must be the same. So this is number 14 on your add subtract worksheet. You have 8 minus 5 and 1/5. I'm first going to show you the incorrect way to do this, and then I'll show you the correct way. Okay, so when you have 8 minus 5 and 1/5, here's what you can't say this is. This is not the same as 8 minus 5 plus 1/5, right? Whenever you subtract a mixed number, you have to subtract the whole number, which is 5 here, and you have to subtract the fraction part. So I can't subtract the whole number and add the fraction part. I have to subtract the whole number and the fraction part. So this must be a minus, okay? Now let me show you, if I just add, I'm going to get the incorrect answer, because 8 minus 5 would be 3, and 3 plus 1/8 would be 3 and 1/8, which is the incorrect answer. I don't want that, okay? So I must recognize whenever I'm subtracting a mixed number, you have to subtract both parts, the whole number part and the fractional part. So it should look like this: 8 minus 5 minus 1/8. Okay, when I do that, 8 minus 5 is 3, and I subtract 1/8 more. Now how am I going to do that? Well, 3 is the same thing as 2 and 8/8, right? We could call 8 over 8 a whole fraction, because 8 over 8 is 1, and 1 plus 2 is 3. So what I'm basically doing here is unsimplifying. I'm unsimplifying 3 to make it 2 and 8/8. And if I take 1/8 away, I would have 2, and 8/8 minus 1/8 is 7/8. So 2 and 7/8 is the correct answer, not 3 and 1/8. Okay, one more example. This one is number 12, 5 1/4 minus 3 and 3/4. Okay, now whenever you have subtraction, or really addition also, of mixed numbers, I would encourage you to write the problem vertically, which means up and down. Right now this is written horizontally, side to side. So if I write this vertically, 5 and 1/4 minus 3 and 3/4, if I write it vertically like this, take the fractional parts first. So I'm going to look basically at my fractions first, and then I'll look at my whole numbers. Now, just like whenever you subtract multi-digit numbers, if you have a smaller number up here and a bigger number here, you're going to have to borrow, right? Because you can't take 3/4 away from 1/4. So if I borrow, this 5 would become a 4, and this 1/4, if I add 4/4 to it, or 1 whole, it's going to be not 1/4, but 5/4. Okay, now I can subtract. 5/4 minus 3/4 would be 2/4. So I subtract my fractions. Next, I subtract my whole numbers. So 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay, so my answer would be 1 and 2/4, but 2/4 can be simplified to 1/2. So my answer would be 1 and 1/2. Okay, let's go back up to number 14. I'll also do this one where you write the problem vertically. So I have 8 minus 5 and 1/5, and we said our answer was this: 2 and 7/8. So I should get the same answer. Now again, I have nothing right here to subtract from this subtract that fraction from. So I'm going to have to borrow, right? I'm going to have to make this 8 a 7, and this right here would become 8/8, right? Like we said, 8 is the same thing as 7 and 8/8. That's the same thing, okay? So 8/8 minus 7/8 would be, 8/8 minus 1/8 would be 7/8, and 7 minus 5 is 2. So we get 2 and 7/8, which is the same answer we got before, okay? So again, I would encourage you, especially with subtraction, to write the problem vertically.